It's actually a great time to be in the automotive industry. I mean, it's just fantastic. You look around, there's new vehicles. They're more efficient, they're safer, they're cleaner. We have hybrid vehicles on the road. We have plug-in hybrid electric vehicles on the road. We have fuel cell vehicles that are coming out, that are either already out or they're coming out in the next couple of years. So it's a pretty exciting time overall. And this next topic, it kind of adds to that. I mean, I remember when I first started with the industry back in '95, I remember it was Cheryl Edelman at EPA, and her goal was 2534, which I don't think had a number back then, but it was kind of a black box, and you hooked a computer to it, you hooked the car to the other end, and you could reprogram any vehicle with that. So this kind of follows, and so I'll go over the MOU first, and the MOU followed from Massachusetts Right to Repair law that was adopted, I think, a couple of years ago now, maybe a year ago, and then the MOU just follows. It's identical to that with some minor exceptions which don't impact the aftermarket. So let me just cover some of the requirements in the MOU. First, for model year 2002 and later, it's service information. Diagnostic repair information, technical repair updates, same form, manner, and extent. This is for 2002 and later model year vehicles. And so that's not a surprise. I think manufacturers have been doing this for a long time. Same thing with the tools. 2002 and later, diagnostic repair tools. Same diagnostic repair and wireless capabilities. And then diagnostic information to the aftermarket tool companies, and that a lot of times that goes through Charlie Gorman or now Greg Potter at ETI, and other times it goes directly with a licensing agreement. So again, this is kind of the things that we have been doing or should have been doing all along. Training, just to kind of follow back on before I get to this next up, to follow up on this last panel, the training, it's been our agreement and our intent, and I believe the commitment that manufacturers have made is to make the same training materials available to the aftermarket that they make available to their dealerships. And that includes the training materials, whether it's a PowerPoint. It also includes satellite training. If they make that to their dealers, they put the video, or they should put the video online. So that's the commitment that manufacturers have made. And if it's not there, then we should know about it and we should try to correct that. So moving on, and this is kind of the heart of what I wanted to cover today, and that's model year 2018, diagnostic and reprogramming using an off-the-shelf computer, SAEJ 2534 or ISO 22900, or it could be Ethernet. I think some manufacturers may decide, hey, you know what, I want a laptop and an Ethernet cable. Plug in the Ethernet cable to the car, you have the laptop, you can diagnose the vehicle, you can reprogram the vehicle using that. USB, I'm not familiar with that. DVD, same thing, not too familiar, and in doubt we'll be diagnosing with DVD. And then direct access via the vehicle onboard display, and I think that probably covers some kind of minor diagnostics that you might see. So I put a small graphic at the bottom here, and that's kind of the way it's envisioned to work. So on the left, you have the OEM subscription, the cloud. Let's talk about the cloud these days. Everybody wants the cloud. Everybody's into the cloud. But on the computer, there's the OE app. And so it could be you download the OEM application. It could be that the OEM application comes via DVD. It'd be a one-time load on your computer and then an update via the internet. And then the 2534 device. And again, that connects to the vehicle. And this, again, the idea here is that you'll be able to do all of the OEM level diagnostic and reprogramming with just, for all the OEMs, with just a computer, a 2534 device connected to the vehicle. So that's the idea. It's, again, and this would kind of eliminate the need for the manufacturer-specific diagnostic tool. So probably the most prevalent, and in fact unquestionably the most likely application is 2534. This is a SAE spec, and so I thought it might be helpful because it's confusing to me, and I will admit that I'm not a 2534 expert, so this presentation is kind of a consolidation of my discussions with a lot of automotive engineers, some engineers from tool companies, so, you know, but it was a little confusing to me on what the different 2534 is. So the first is the 2534-1. And you'll see all of these numbers, and you'll see the dashes, and sometimes you'll see the versions when you look at tools and things. And 2534-1 is the original. It's the messaging standard for diagnostics and reprogramming. But even this is not quite so easy. It's not, you know, you just can't have one. So we have version 2.2. That was the original. And there were probably a lot of issues with 2.2. And version 4.4 came out, and I think that was December of 2004 when that was adopted. And that's what you'll see today. I mean, that's what's in all the tools. It's what's in all the cars. And there are some issues with that. So the 2534 committee got together and they kind of tightened those specs up and added some diagnostic features, some testing limits, and then they issued and balloted and approved just this summer version 5. So it's 2534-1 version 5, and that's the most recent 2534-1 out there. And you won't find it on any tools or cars at this time. You'll find 4.4. So moving right along is 2534-2, and this has the OEM-specific enhanced protocols that are not supported by the generic OBD. So it's special functions over and above the 2534-1. So you'll see it in a lot of the diagnostic tools, and in some of the stuff in a couple slides later, you'll see that it supports 2534-1 and -2. But those are, so if Chrysler has a specific enhanced diagnostic capability, they might stick that in 2534-2. And all of the OEMs, I believe all of the OEMs have sections in 2534-2. The third 2534 is -3, surprisingly. And that's a conformance test. And for a 2534-1 device. And I suspect that you're all familiar with Volkswagen will have they will validate they will validate maybe 2 tools, maybe 3 tools, and they'll say, yes, if you buy this tool, it will work with our cars. Well, the idea behind 2534-3 is to allow the tool company to run this conformance test, and then you could have confidence that that device would work with all of the OEMs. So a couple of caveats on that, though. 2534-3, first of all, it hasn't been approved, it hasn't been balloted, and it's not likely to be for several years, so probably 2016, 2017, sometime like that. So second, 2534-1, version 500, that's what -3 will use. That's what it will test the device against. So we are some time away. So that's what they're going to build 2534-3 against, the version 5 of -1. So a couple of things. First, it won't verify a tool on version 4.4. And second, it won't verify and it won't validate a tool on 2534-2. So that's the -3. And then finally, SAE 2534-4, that's still conceptual. And I've talked to 2 or 3 people, and it seems like everybody has a different idea on what it might be, whether it's like a grand unified theory and something like that that will work on everything from from motor scooters to spaceships, but right now it's still kind of conceptual. I don't even know if they meet on a regular basis, but right now it's not something that we're overly, that I think will affect you in the near future. So 2534, what is it doing, and how does it help the aftermarket? Because that's kind of what I wanted to focus on. Again, the intent is to give the factory tool diagnostics and reprogramming for all OEMs using a computer, a 2534 device, and the OEM's application on that computer. So that's the idea. So you don't have to buy the Toyota tool, the Ford tool, the GM tool, the Audi tool. So that's the goal, that's the vision. Expanded reprogramming, it will cover reprogramming for not only emission related, but also non-emission related. So that's another advantage of that. And then finally, once 2534-3 is approved, it will provide, it should give confidence to the device manufacturers that their device will work and function properly on the OEMs, multiple OEMs vehicles. Again, the caveats, version 500, and it's only 2534-1. So I thought it would be worthwhile just to kind of show how this is evolving, because the requirement is that you have diagnostics available by 2018 model year. So manufacturers no manufacturer rolls out 100% in the final model year. And actually a lot of manufacturers had already started this movement towards 2534 prior to the MOU, prior to right to repair, prior to even a discussion of this topic in legislation. And so what I've done, Drew Technologies, they're one of the companies that produce 2534 devices. And so I thought it was just worthwhile to take a look at what they have and kind of show you. So if you look over here, this is, and as I get older, this is the Toyota. So, and you can see it provides the factory diagnostic for Toyota vehicles. Actually, you may be able to see, I can't actually see that well. But so, and that's for $450, this Mongoose tool for the Toyota. It gives you factory level diagnostics and reprogramming. You need a computer, you need Toyota's app, and you need this 2534 device, and you get factory diagnostics. The same thing is true with Audi VW. They've also moved to 2534, and again with a $450 Mongoose and a computer and the app, you can do factory level diagnostic and reprogramming on Volkswagen, Audi. And the third one is Jaguar Land Rover. They've also fully moved to that. So that's kind of the idea, but and these are fairly reasonably priced devices. And again, I've got a list of the manufacturers that are in this area, device manufacturers, but it kind of gives you an idea. It's a little more reasonably priced, but you still have 3 devices here in the app. So they also sell another device that works on multiple manufacturers. And so that's kind of the idea, and the goal is to move where you can buy one device and it will work on multiple manufacturers. And of course, it's more expensive than the individual. But the idea is, again, if you work on multiple models, you can buy a single device and you'll get that factory level diagnostic and reprogramming. The device manufacturers, again, the Drew Technologies is the one I showed, but these manufacturers all are in the 2534, and there's probably others as well. But it's a pretty active area. I think most people are moving to this. The manufacturers with full 2534 diagnostics already, Audi, BMW, General Motors for 2014 and later model year vehicles, JLR, Jaguar Land Rover, Toyota Lexus, Mini, Volkswagen, Volvo. So a lot of companies are moving there. and again, the requirement's 2018. No manufacturer can shift in a single model year. No manufacturer will. Typically, phase-ins will run 3 years, so you'll start to see more and more vehicles out there. And these are the ones that are fully 2534 compliant already. And if you looked at another manufacturer, they'll have some models that are already out there. In fact, sometimes many models, like Ford, I know they're starting to shift. So you'll see vehicles out there that are already compliant. It's just they may not have shifted their full fleet. All manufacturers will be headed that way. I mean, and you have to be realistic. There's undoubtedly going to be some problems. There's going to be some issues. There always is. But that's part of the process. It's part of the improving. So that's kind of it for 2534 for the MOU. I think this is the most, at least in my mind, the most critical element coming out of the MOU. Again, the idea is factory level diagnostics and reprogramming. I think also we have a lot of issues with reprogramming today. I think those will improve dramatically as we move in this direction. And I think in 5 years it'll be kind of a different plane, I guess, a different dynamic in reprogramming and diagnostics. Again, and this just kind of covers, again, what I believe to be some of the major advantages. And that's all I had. If anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them or try to. Again, I'm not an expert, but.
I've got one.
Yes.
Yeah, the off-the-shelf computer, that suggests that someone may be able to load more than one automaker onto one computer. Do you have any insight?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the intent. You'll load the app. So I could load Toyota's app on this computer. I could load Ford's app on this computer, and that would give me factory level diagnostics on Ford and Toyota with this computer. And if I wanted to put VW and Volvo, I could do the same thing.
So, because one of the issues that NASTF hears about already is that you can't load some manufacturers on the same computer because of some compatibility issues. And so I'm guessing maybe with the new iteration of 2534, that would have been cleaned up so that you can do that. Do you know any?
And I mean, there will be issues. There's no doubt about that. I'm not familiar with, what, the compatibility issues. Yeah, Mark Saxenberg.
Wait, Mark.
There's two things that lead to compatibility. The first is having a standard. The second is actually following the standard. And sometimes the standard is not followed by choice, and sometimes the standard is simply misinterpreted, which is probably more often the case, which leads to things like incompatibilities. J2534 is anything but mature right now, but it is maturing. And by the time we get to Dash 4, we should be hopeful that it's mature by then. And as we discussed in our meeting earlier today, we need to get to work now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's what you see with the 2.2 to 4.4 to 5.0 is that maturity going and the compatibility and just improvements in general. So again, I think in the next 5 years, and 5 years from now, if we're still here, and I think it'll be a different, there'll still be issues, but I think it'll be vastly different. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your attention.